METAPHYS is a deck around the banished mechanic. They care about banishing their monsters to the banished zone, and after a turn during the next standby phase, they return to your deck and perform some action. Some allow you to search your METAPHYS cards, some allow you to special summon from your hand, and some allow you to banish more cards from your deck. The deck is pretty slow, but it's pretty powerful because of its removal effects. The removal effects don't target and don't destroy. Our main monster banishes all monsters on the field, and METAPHYS banishes all set back row. So it is a kind of effect that not every deck is equipped to deal with. And because of the recent unbanning of Aloof Lupine, the deck might be a little bit stronger than before. So let's have a look at the cards. First is METAPHYS Daedalus. This card, when special summoned by the effect of a METAPHYS monster, you can banish all face-up special summoned monsters on the field. If this card is banished during the next standby phase, you can shuffle this back to the deck and banish a METAPHYS card from your deck itself. Next is Kiteroid. Because of all your monsters' banish effects, they need to wait to the next standby phase to actually use their effects. You will be heavily relying on hand traps to keep you alive while there are still banished monsters on the banish zone. Kiteroid is one of them, because we're not playing Goat Sark, which is also limited to. That card is from a structure deck, which you can only pay to get for some reason. So for a limited 2 spot, we are playing 2 copies of Kiteroid. Next is a METAPHYS Nephis. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a METAPHYS monster, you can banish all set spells and traps on the field. And if this card is banished in the next standby phase, you shuffle this card back to the deck, and you add any METAPHYS card from your deck to your hand. It includes your spells and traps. Next is 2 copies of METAPHYS Tyrant Dragon. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a METAPHYS monster, it's unaffected by traps, and also it can attack twice in a row if you attack a monster. If this card is banished during the next standby phase, shuffle this card back to the deck, and you can special summon a METAPHYS monster from your hand, but it is banished during the end phase of the next turn. Next is our second hand trap. We're playing 2 copies of a Veil. It is also a pretty good hand trap for us to play, especially in combination with Destiny Draw, because even if we gain back the life points that we lost, it still counts towards the damage for our skill. Next is 3 copies of Aloof Lupine. This is our main starter. When this card is normal summoned, you can banish a monster from your hand and also banish another monster from your deck with the same type as that monster. It's a really good starter to banish both a Daedalus plus a Nephis. That is usually what you're going to do. If you're going second, you might want to banish a Tyrant Dragon to summon a monster from your hand. Next is 1 copy of METAPHYS Decoy Dragon. This is our other starter, kinda. It doesn't really do anything until your opponent tries to attack you, in which case it banishes itself and then summons a banished METAPHYS, or summons a METAPHYS monster from your graveyard. For our back row, we have Asim METAPHYS. Once per turn, you can banish a METAPHYS card from your hand, you draw a card, and also once per turn, if you banish a METAPHYS card, you can activate one of these 2 effects depending on which turn you banish the card. If it's in your own turn, all monsters on the field will lose 500 attack or defense except METAPHYS monsters, and it will decrease your own Aloof Lupine's attack, but that's kinda fine. And if you do it during your opponent's turn, you change all battle positions of your opponent's of all monsters except for METAPHYS monsters. We have 1 copy of Card of Soul because it can search METAPHYS and Nephis. It has a combined attack defense of 4000, which is perfect. And for our trap, we're playing a single copy of a METAPHYS Dimension. This is other form of removal other than the monsters. If your opponent special summons a monster, you can also special summon a banished METAPHYS from your banished pile. And if a METAPHYS card is banished while this card is already face up, you could target and banish 1 card your opponent controls. It does target, but it can banish anything, and it doesn't destroy. For the extra deck, it's just a bunch of random stuff. I never summoned any of them. We're playing one Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, Topologic Bomber Dragon, Power Code Talker, Buzz Lumino, Code Talker, Gas Saber, Link Disciple, Pentastack. For skill, we're playing D-Draw. Probably know what this does already. If your life points decrease by 2000, even if you heal back afterwards, you can basically choose whatever card you want to draw during your next draw phase. Since we're playing so many hand traps, we could control the amount of damage we take pretty easily, and we could trigger this skill without too much problem. Here is a expensive version of the deck. We're playing Goat Sock because it is a card that you can pretty much only obtain if you pay. And in Zelf Kite Roy, because we're playing Goat Sock, we can't play that card. We're playing 3 copies of Daedalus. We're only playing 2 copies of METAPHYS because this deck is quite bricky if you draw too many of the higher level monsters, so we are trying to not play that much. We're also playing 3 Lupine, 1 Decoy Dragon, 3 METAPHYS, 1 Dimension, and we're playing 3 copies of a METAPHYS Ascension. This card is from another box, that's why we're not playing it in the other version. But this card is really good at banishing stuff during your opponent's turn, because with your starters like Lupine, Gold Sock, or METAPHYS, they banish during your own turn, but sometimes you want to banish cards during your opponent's turn so you can trigger effects like Dimension's Banish effect, or the battle position changing effect of METAPHYS, as you will see in one of the replays. Ascension has an effect to discard a METAPHYS card, draw a card, and then banish a METAPHYS monster from your deck. If this card is banished, you can add a METAPHYS card from your deck to your hand. So even if you have it in your hand, you could just banish one of them using METAPHYS or something like that, and you could grab a METAPHYS card directly from your deck. For the extra deck, it's just other random stuff. Usually you won't go into extra deck, so it doesn't really matter what you play. We're playing 1 copy of Trishula because technically it banishes stuff from your field to summon itself. We're playing the Photon Dragon Engine. We're playing Big Eye, Nightmare, Unicorn, Cerberus, and Phoenix. And for a skill, we're playing Grit because we're not playing the hand traps. We're instead playing a skill that prevents us from dying once if our opponent has enough for a lethal. And because this deck doesn't really special summon that much, it only usually special summons a single monster, usually it will be a Daedalus, you can kind of play around the restrictions of this skill. Okay, so this deck is really good at removing monsters by bypassing a lot of protection effects. So your main form of removal, which is Daedalus, it doesn't target, doesn't destroy, as I have said, and it gets around a lot of graveyard effects, target protection, all that sort of stuff, and it wipes the entire board, so that's pretty good. If your opponent has set up an entire board of boss monsters, it's all gonna be gone. And also, METAPHYS is also pretty good against heavy back row decks. You can just banish all the set cards, and even if they chain activate something like a Book of Moon, because it activates on summon, they still get banished anyway. And this deck does have quite a bit of weaknesses. The main one is consistency. Even with 3 copies of Lupine, you still run into a lot of consistency issues because you're playing so many high-level monsters. It's kind of like Blue Eyes, where you are heavily relying on higher-level monsters in your deck that only do something in your hand unless you have other cards that make them useful. Oftentimes you open with hands with a whole bunch of high-level monsters and maybe a hand trap or 2, and you have no way of getting rid of them. And the second problem is that it's very slow, because all your monsters need to wait a turn until they actually do something. You have to kind of rely on a lot of hand traps and maybe the grit skill for expensive version to just not die, because all of your monsters are so slow. So yeah, the deck is pretty cheap, so a lot of new players might want to consider that, and it's probably going to be good enough for low rank, but in terms of competitive level, I think there are much better choices out there. For our first game, we were playing against Playmaker, and we're going second, and we have our starter, but we have 0 METAPHYS monsters. Hopefully we draw 1 from the top of our deck. That would be really nice. Our opponent is playing Crusadia. They're going to go through their combo line. They're gonna special summon a whole bunch of monsters. Well, the good thing is that Crusadia is a lot better if they go second, but they're going first, so maybe we could make this work. They're going to activate the effect of the Crusadia Draco to grab back the Arborea, and then the Link 2 to grab power. They're gonna Link summon, of course, Equimax, and then he's gonna summon 1 more monster to the Link point of Equimax so he can negate a single card. That might be a bit rough. But we do draw a METAPHYS. Card of Soul is basically a METAPHYS because we can just use it to grab a Nephys from our deck. We can activate as a METAPHYS. Hopefully he negates that, but he doesn't. We activate Lupine. He negates the Lupine, which is correct for him. And hopefully we could survive. We should be able to because we have a Kiteroid. We'll try to attack over our opponent's monster, but he has a White Princess, so we're not able to. But that's fine. We still have a Kiteroid, so we're not going to die this turn at least. He is going to special summon a Maximus, try to go for lethal. We have a Kiteroid, so we're not going to lose yet. As a METAPHYS is going to banish a card and draw a card. Reduce his attack more. We activate a second copy of as a METAPHYS. We're gonna bash another card, reduce another 500. We'll try to attack his copy of Maximus. He activates land, so we can't beat over it with our Decoy Dragon. That's okay, we have a Dimension, so we should be able to banish his cards one by one. We're gonna activate Dimension to banish his stuff. He activates Power to protect his own monster, that's fine. We're going to activate the effects of our banished METAPHYS monsters. We'll first activate Nephys to grab back the Daedalus, so we could have something for our Tyrant Dragon to summon. Decoy Dragon to summon the Tyrant Dragon, and he couldn't actually beat over our Tyrant Dragon, so we could safely go to our own turn. We're gonna banish another card with a METAPHYS. Dimension will attempt to banish his Link, which he will negate, but his negate actually doesn't destroy our card, which is pretty nice for him. With attack, he protects himself. We attack again with the Tyrant Dragon, and then we attack directly with our remaining 2 monsters. Now, he only has a single card in his hand plus a field spell, which will soon be banished as well. Things are looking pretty good for us. He has probably exhausted all of his resources while we're still absolutely just comboing off. We have tons of monsters on field. We have all our back row are set, we have monsters that are banished, we have a Kiteroid in grave, and our opponent is going to scoop. In our next game, we're again going second. Our opponent is playing Harpies, I think. And we run into the other extreme of the problem. We don't have a starter, but thankfully we drew kind of a starter. METAPHYS will get the job done. We draw another METAPHYS, we will activate the effect again. We'll set a copy of Dimension, and we will start banishing his stuff. We will activate the effect of Daedalus to trigger the effect of both Dimension and both copies of METAPHYS. He's actually playing Dragoonity. That's pretty interesting. We're gonna banish another copy of Nephys. I actually have no idea why he's playing single Dragoonity card in Harpies. Well, I guess it technically summons a Harpy from a graveyard, maybe, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, he has a copy of Hunting Ground, which is really annoying. He's gonna be able to pop our back row one by one, but at least we're gonna be able to summon back the Tyrant Dragon with our Dimension before he pops our trap. And he has not enough attack to beat over our Tyrant Dragon, so he's going to end his turn. During our standby phase, we can activate the effect of our banished stuff, beat over his Harpy. We'll not activate a METAPHYS because we don't want to trigger his Harpy Cyber Slash. During his turn, he will use the spell that he grabbed back last turn using the effect of the Oracle. He's gonna use Happy Hunting Ground to pop our remaining back row, but that's fine. We have Decoy Dragon, which will summon back the Tyrant Dragon. We're gonna Decoy Dragon summon itself back. We drew Aloof, so we can banish 2, and we will use Tyrant Dragon, attack twice, and that will be game. It is time for the expensive version. We are playing as a Joey because we are using the Grit skill. Our opponent is playing Hero, and we opened with an okay hand. Well, you might notice that this deck is not very consistent. We often don't open with everything we need, and there are a lot more games where I just brick and need to scoop immediately that I'm just not showing. But yeah, you can probably see how this deck is not very good. Other than the fact that it plays so slow, it's just also not very consistent, even with all the Lupines and Gold Sock. The deck still breaks quite a lot. Our opponent is going to do their hero combo. They're going to summon a whole bunch of fusion monsters. Here's Sunrise number 1, Sunrise number 2. Liquid Soldier is now unlimited, so they could easily have access to it. He's going to Link Summon to make it the Window Driver. It's got set 2. We drew a METAPHYS, which is pretty good. It makes something work. We draw a 3rd trap. That is absolutely not ideal. It's fine, we can at least summon METAPHYS and Nephys, hopefully banish his back row, but he is going to Warning Point. That means it is going to be negated. Now he's just going to perform his big hero combo. The thing is, we kind of have a way to prevent us from dying other than our skill. Our skill has an effect to prevent 1 lethal damage, but if he has a whole bunch of monsters, he will still be able to beat over monsters plus win the game by reducing our life points to 0. But we have a trick up our sleeve. Because we have our set copy of Ascension, we could banish a card during his turn, which means we could trigger the battle switching effect of METAPHYS, which we will do in his battle phase. We're gonna use the effect of METAPHYS, switch all of his stuff to defense, and now during our own turn, we have 2 Assassins in our hand, and that is more than enough to clear his entire board. We're gonna normal summon Lupine. He realizes that his entire board is about to be banished, and he will scoop before we could do it. Good game.